in my opinion, that presents a degree of confidence when you say to an owner, here's what we're going to do, this is what's going to cost, and this is how long it's going to take to do it.
Welcome to Builders, Budgets, and Beers. I'm Reece Barnes, and I started this podcast to have real conversations about money in the building industry, the wins, the mistakes, and everything in between. I believe builders deserve to feel confident about their finances, and that starts by hearing from others who've been through it too. This industry can be slow to change, but the right stories and the right tools can make profitability feel possible. Let's get into it.
Mics are hot. We're rolling.
Mics are hot. I see it.
Mics are hot. What were you saying?
Well, you had suggested maybe that I was against cost plus. And I'm
Which
not.
you are. Yeah,
I'm
you
not.
are. I'm just kidding.
I love it, man. Debate makes good for good content, right?
That's right. That's right. You are more pro fixed price, though.
I am pro a man who says what he's going to do and executes on that. So
I love that. Okay.
I sort of live in this world where, like, if you say you're going to do something, you go do it. So between that and it being just me up until, I don't know, a month and a half ago, it's been Chris Kerr running White Oak Home, and it's project management, estimating, invoicing, payments, everything, man, wearing every hat. So like, I'm not to sidetrack this, but I'm going through this growth phase right now. But bringing it back, I always just found it easier to, as a one-man shop, run fixed costs, because it's like, I'd rather spend the time up front. Go ahead.
Question. I always say fixed price.
Yeah.
You're saying fixed cost.
I mean the same thing.
Okay, and I think that's like actually like a pretty interesting way to look at it. I didn't mean to throw you off with that, but you would like, you could argue that fixed price is different than fixed cost, because fixed cost would assume that like you're like signing a contract suggesting that you're not going to go over the cost of the project, which is different than the price of the project, which would insinuate revenue, including your work. I just wanted to get that out of the way. That's fair. As long as we're talking about the same thing, that's good.
Yeah, we are. And you could also call it lump sum. You've heard it
lump sum,
called
sure.
all those three things: lump sum, lump cost, lump price. So the point is this, right? Like, I'm giving you a price, I'm defining this level of scope in detail, and that's what I'm going to do. Unless you add something, change something, modify something, it's we're going to deliver on what we're promising. I mean, I'm going so far as writing, we're using poplar trim, not finger jointed pine. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting into that level of detail on the price.
Sure. Okay.
And the reason is, again, it's just been me. I frankly don't have time to like get behind a computer and bundle all those receipts together, take all the invoices, chase a guy for an invoice because we're trying to get the bill in for the foundation work we just did.
Yeah.
And so it's just I found it just easier to do my billing and invoicing that way.
Okay, so you're hand on the Bible. That is the reason why one of the reasons why you choose to do fixed over cost plus.
Yes. And now
the administrative admin work that goes into putting together draws. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Hand on the Bible, 100%. And like mixing a little bit of ego there, right? Like, I just, sure. I would love to live in a world where we could just shake hands and go do something, right? Like, there's something, in my opinion, that presents a degree of confidence when you say to an owner, here's what we're going to do, this is what's going to cost, and this is how long it's going to take to do it. And we've found some success, between me and the subcontractor team in doing that. And it's worked for us. Now, here's where I can spin myself in circles and kind of like have the own debate inside my own head here. I think there's a stigma perhaps with the fixed price, fixed cost contractor where they're trying to do it cheaper, right? And I could be wrong.
It's a compelling concern. It makes sense. Go ahead.
For sure, yeah. And maybe this is the boogeyman chasing me. I don't know, but I think there is a bit of a stigma there. And so, I've as of lately come to the conclusion that like every job's different, right? Like if I'm getting hired to do a job, like we just got hired, we're doing a cost plus job right now.
Okay, cool.
$700,000, and we're doing it. And
What does 700
so,
grand get you in Hingham? What is this, like a bathroom remodel? Just kidding.
it's a historic barn, but yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be awesome, I'm sure. Wait, is
it's
this the
gonna
one
be.
with the timbers?
Yep. Yeah.
Dude, that's
It's
badass. Everybody who's listening, you need to go. Actually, and before we get too deep into this, Chris, give them a
yeah.
little background on yourself and where to find you first.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, Chris Kerr, we live here in Hingham. Wife, 3 kids. Been working in the trade since I was, I don't know, 14. I started as a plumber in Syracuse, New York.
Minnesota guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, born in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Born in Minnesota. Yeah, father took a job working for a plumbing and heating company in Syracuse when I was like in kindergarten. So I really say I grew up in Syracuse, New York.
Yeah.
Son of a
Okay.
plumber. Ran copper water lines. Said I'd never do this again. I was going to get so far away from the trades. Studied
Look
some
at you.
economics, and yeah, came back to it. So I ended up working right out of college. I worked for like 3 of the bigger firms around Boston, which sort of honed the systems, and really kind of got a real taste of really the systems that go into construction. But yeah, 6 years ago, I like to say the corporate world spit me out, got fired,
Yeah. Rejected you.
rejected me. Yeah, I just
That's okay.
I don't fit the system, and it just the system told me that. So we found a degree of success here in and around Hingham and Boston for the past 6 years. I mean, we've left a happy trail of customers, and yeah, we're doing something right, and we're growing. I mean, I mentioned we've got a
Yeah.
project manager now. We have an office manager.
Mhm.
We've
You guys
taken
are
on
crushing. White Oak Custom Homes, right? Or White Oak Construction?
White Oak Home.
White Oak
Yeah,
Home.
yeah.
Yeah. You guys are setting up. I love it. I love what you guys are doing, Chris, because it's I think you guys are on the path that a lot of builders are on and want to be on. Because the level of product that you guys are building is incredible. Again, that's why I wanted you to tell people who you were so they can go check you out on Facebook, Instagram, not Facebook,
Yeah,
Instagram, your website. But point being is like you're in the stage of business where you have a lot of these questions, right? You're building an extremely high-end product.
sure.
You're starting to have these like more business thoughts and back and forth of like fixed price, cost plus, why one or the other. I'm scaling, I'm growing, I'm hiring people, I'm building processes. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to lose the beauty of a handshake deal, but also know that it can open myself up to some risk. And like you're starting to have those thoughts. So that's where I think it's good for people to find you, to know who you are, and to go back into, not to deter the conversation, but to go back into the $700,000 project that you're doing, and you're doing cost plus.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
that project.
exactly.
Go ahead.
And that's where, and like I'll just, here I am, I'll plug adaptive. In this process of scaling, I mean, one of the panic moments was like, how do I handle all these invoices and receipts and payments? I frankly got tired of. I mean, I had some contractors literally chasing me around in my truck, like, where are you going
Looking
to
for a
be?
check.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, enough, like enough. All right, you will. I'm going to hit the button. They know it now as the button. They say I tell them, I go, all right, yeah, that looks good. I'm going to hit the button on Friday. So there's a few guys will call me now, like, hey, you hit the button yet? I said, no, not yet. I told you Friday.
Dude, we got to get a shirt made of that. Get adaptive shirts like we hit the button weekly.
Yeah,
Do you pay from your phone? Do you pay
I'll
from
pay
your
from the
phone?
phone, the computer. I mean, it's just
You pay
I'm
them
everywhere.
wherever.
Yeah,
I love it.
and I
Uh,
do like that you guys are bringing more features over to the phone because I mean, I'm sure you know, like it was a bit limiting in the beginning. We're
yeah,
all
of
growing.
course. Dude,
We're all growing.
We're like a 3-year-old software. We're all a 3-year-old software. Like we're just growing all the time. And so one reason I don't want this to turn into a big plug. I'm pretty bullish about that. I do appreciate you, sharing an
Yeah,
authentic
no doubt.
solution that we have provided you. But we have failed
Go on.
in the sense that you don't like cost plus because of the administrative burden that comes with billing and cost plus.
Yeah,
And that's like our bread and butter.
I know.
I am offended that we have not shown you the light on cost plus draws in adaptive.
Yeah. And you're right. Like, and that's like, I've said it, like I said it to you at dinner a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
I know I'm only scratching the surface of what you guys can do. And I know
Mhm.
you have that solution for me.
Mhm.
It still remains a little daunting to me to have to like figure that out. So maybe, and I know like Daniel's setting us up in a,
Mhm. Mhm.
you've got great support. So like, I know we have a call with Daniel next week with
Mhm.
our office manager. So my hope is, in that call, we can figure out how we can do this. Cause
You will.
as I said, we're doing a cost plus job. So
Yeah.
now's the time.
For sure. For sure. And I think to pull this back into what I want to chat with you about, because you are bullish, at least for the time being, on fixed price.
Yeah.
Why are you bullish on fixed price? As the handshake deal, it's the say what you do. But when I look at it, I'm not like, I don't really care, frankly. Like I've talked to enough people about this. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, dude, people are making money both ways. People are losing money both ways. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's really like kind of a perspective in what you carry. So deeper than just like the say what you do, like provide what you say, fixed price. I could argue that with cost plus, but let's go a little deeper on like where your conviction in fixed price comes from. Lump sum, fixed cost, whatever you call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can think. We don't have to be fast and snappy. I'm just curious.
No, I mean, so I mentioned a bit of it is the handshake thing, which admittedly is somewhat ego driven. Like I do like being able to do what you say you're going to do and then execute, right? So like that's a big motivator for me. We talked about, at least in my mind, like the time saving aspect of it, where it's just that when it was me, the job gets rolling, and um, you don't really have time to start managing receipts. Oh, here's one. Like the thought of missing a receipt. And by the way, like when I listen to adaptive podcasts, I cherry picked all of them that were like, I'm a fixed price guy, I'm a cost plus guy. So I feel I've heard all of the debates because I am
Yeah.
so interested in that piece of it. And so
Yes.
I listen to them very intently, thinking like, okay, I agree with that. Okay, I don't agree with that.
Mhm.
But that, like, one of the points one of the guys made was like, the lost receipts. And I know like your
Mhm.
software helps that. So like
Mhm.
billable items that, are no longer getting lost because they're in the system. Like
Mhm.
that to me again, like even with the software, perhaps, like I would still
Mhm.
stress about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Which we can open up with product. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. And again, maybe that's different when there's help, support, a bigger team. But
Mhm.
but when it's me, I'm not finding every receipt. I don't have them all. So that, like,
So, okay. This is a great point. I'll
yeah.
let you finish, but I do want to add to this. Go ahead.
No, go on. I'm probably just babbling.
Okay. You're doing fine. This is great. With the receipt question, right? And really what the receipt is it's right, it's just like tracking billable cost. That's all it is for a cost plus guy. That's valuable. I can
Yeah.
track every dollar. And it's like the classic, which I did coin for my ego. You can't plus
Yeah.
what you don't cost,
Love
right?
that. Yeah.
Like every dollar that I miss, I'm not just missing the cost of that dollar, I'm missing the potential markup, which includes my margin on that dollar. That's what that means, right? So, of
Right.
course, like, yeah, tracking every receipt is great. But it sounds like you're alluding to the fact that because you aren't good at tracking receipts, that fixed price helps you get around that need. Is that
Takes
what
a
you're
piece of it.
suggesting?
Yeah. I mean, I never like hearing you're not good at something, but yeah, I mean, is
No
it
one
something?
does. But can we call a spade a spade? Maybe I used the wrong term. Maybe you
No.
could get better. Spin it a little more positively. Yeah.
So no, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean but that is what it is. I mean, I wish I was better about it. It's something I know.
Mhm.
As I grow, I know that our company needs to be better about knowing what dollar is going where.
Mhm. Mhm. For sure. But I think the question, and this is where I'm ultimately getting, is because when I look at cost plus versus fixed price, with at least like the conversations that I've had around it, is like it's really like a matter of like risk and
Yeah.
upside is really how these two decisions get made. Is like if I'm a cost plus builder, I'm shifting a lot of the risk to the client. right? Because I get the openness of not having to give them 100% committed numbers on the front end before we start doing anything, which any good cost plus builder is going to tell you that just because they're cost plus doesn't mean that they're trying to hit within a single digit percentage point of what they estimated, right? But they're effectively like shifting that risk if there are overages, right? And then the upside is a little bit more like a little more calculated on a cost plus, right? Because you're typically marking up based on like a percentage, and that's just going to be like there's not as much room for upside or downside. Whereas a fixed price builder, you're shifting more of the risk to the builder because they're committing to a number, and if they blow that number, their margin disappears. That's why I say fixed price is a race to margin. Both of them have an extreme emphasis and importance on tracking cost. I'm a cost plus builder. I need to make my markup, so I need to track every dollar. If I'm a fixed price builder, I need to track every dollar because that's telling me how much margin I'm going to make on these line items.
Yeah.
So that was where my question's coming from, is like, how do you perceive this from a risk standpoint when you think about cost plus over fixed price?
I was trying to be such a good listener there. You threw a lot at me.
I'm terrible at that. No, it's fine. How about this?
No, you brought it back. I totally know what you're saying. And I know the school of thought here. It's like the risk exists, right? It's just who's holding it, the client or the contractor. I suppose like I'd rather create my own destiny. I'd rather hold the risk. I mean, and there's, I recognize that I may end up being over on some line items. I may end up being under on others, but at the end, like it's gonna average out. And I got a good enough team where sometimes I got to say, look, man, like we don't have that kind of money in this budget. I need you to deliver for me here, and I'm gonna have to take care of you on the next one. I mean, those are conversations we've had before because, I mean, they want to see me succeed. I want to see them succeed. We're all in it to make some money. But I don't know. And I mean, there's something.
I think that's a good point. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I like the hunt too. I like the hunt. I like knowing that, like, if I saved $3,000 on siding, or if I should say I overestimated it. I mean, I might get excited for a second, but then I'm gonna learn I was, $4,000 over on my trim work. But so maybe it's that ride that I enjoy in some sick way.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is great, right? And that's why I say, like, I think this is a perspective and a conversation that is worth having, right?
Yeah.
And from multiple different builders' perspectives, because I refuse to believe that like Chris Kerr is like on his own island, right? And like under his own, there are builders that will listen to this and be like, dude,
there's no way. We're all thinking the same thoughts.
Exactly. And I think like, oh, did I lose you? Are we here?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. That was the first. Okay. We're good. We're stable. I think to your like the hunt, right? I think the ride of the project.
Yeah.
I think that's like a fair way to look at it if that's what you're trying to build, right? I think that yearning becomes a lot less palatable when you start to grow and develop as a business.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like I've got project managers on salary. I've got team members, admin on salary. I've got this, that, and the other. I might 1099. A point being, like, I'm responsible for putting them to work.
Yeah.
I think that's where like the calculated nature of whichever pricing model you have becomes a lot. I don't know. It's a lot less about like just trying to like find that deal or like get the guy taken care of or like get that like rush from a $3,000 savings, right? Because like to your point, you're going to find a loss somewhere in that budget, right? That's going to eat it up and it'll essentially wash out. Go ahead.
What like how would Adaptive support a fixed cost contract, or do you even want to offer that you can do that?
Dude, 100%. We've got tons of fixed price builders on Adaptive. And it goes back to that logic of like, it doesn't matter whether you're fixed price or cost plus, it all comes down to tracking cost, right? And that's such a strong component of Adaptive.
Yeah.
Right? And really, like when I see like fixed price builders that are really getting excited about Adaptive is it was actually one of our first episodes, talked about Mr. Martin, talked about how he's like literally reviewing like line items on the budgets daily and like tracking costs daily. And that's where I think like a big part of Adaptive is helpful for these guys, because we cut out and shorten that timeline to understand what my costs are, my actuals are, so that then I can see those line items start to bleed or win much more quickly. And that's where I can start like making better decisions that could save or keep a project on track. The other one is WIP.
So Adaptive, and I know I need to get to this feature, but like I'm assuming you have the ability, or Adaptive has the ability to set a budget and then compare it to actuals, and then I can see a plus.
Yeah, dude, Chris, we are failing you.
Yeah, I know. No, you're not failing. I just mean, yeah. All right, so that's one thing we're gonna go over. That would be helpful.
That's a huge part of it, though, and that's where, again, like I think you're raising a fantastic point, because I think there's a lot of builders that they're like, okay, I know I need a budget, but that's like me saying like I know I need to be on a budget, right? Personally, right? It's like, being on a budget's not as fun as not being on a budget. It's like sometimes you get this like little rush. But the point being is when you are running a fixed price model, like knowing those are the guys that are like hyper focused on numbers, is at least what I see.
Is that right?
I see a lot of fixed price guys. Yeah, because again, it's like, just an example. I'm going to build $1 million product. That's the price on it. Okay. And let's say that I won the job and I'm going to have $800,000 in costs wrapped up into this thing with essentially a 20% markup. Most companies that I see, when they start to get a little bit bigger, they're going to be running about a 10% overhead, right? Like their static costs, labor, rent, fuel, stuff like that.
Let's break this down. Project manager is a cost of the job, right? I'm just going to sidetrack you for a second.
Yeah, you should be billing back project management. Yeah,
that's a cost of work, and then you have your overhead, which we're saying is 10%.
Sure.
And then we're saying profit is 10%. And I think like that's one thing I've been fishing for, and I thought it would come out more clearly in any one of these podcasts, but I don't think anybody really is openly talking about that.
There's a nugget. There is a nugget in the Will King episode. Listen to the Will King episode, because he's from High Cotton Homes down in Alabama. Super sharp dude.
Yeah.
And there's a legitimate equation to like essentially back into your numbers on a project. And this is where like I'm just not a math guy. It's like take your cost divided by 1 point whatever, and then or times. He'll go over in the episode, but the point being, that's how you should be finding your margin. That's how you determine if these are good jobs or not.
Yeah. Okay? The thing I struggle with is, where I struggle is, like, I don't want to just say 10% profit, because I feel like at more volume, so like $1 million project, maybe you shouldn't be getting 10%, or maybe it should be getting more. I don't know. I think every builder who listens kind of is anxious to hear, like, am I charging enough? Am I charging too little? Am I charging too much? And it's hard to really get like a real temperature on the industry. I mean, I think we're all generally right around there. I don't know. Yeah. Am I fishing for an answer right now? Kind of.
No. This is the episode. I love it. First off, it is not like countrywide. This is the markup.
Yeah.
Okay. Or like, this is what you should be making. I just did a podcast, however, which was yesterday, with Miller Bradford. He runs Builder Bookkeep, also in Alabama.
Yeah.
Like he also works with Will King. Point being is we talked about WIP, and I had gone through this like 10% overhead, 10% margin. And that, when I say margin, that should be like net margin, right?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, that should generally shake. Like if you're doing $1 million in revenue, you should be making 100,000 net. It was like essentially what they had what we had discussed. There's going to be guys that'll be like, there's no way that'll work in my market. There's no way that this will happen. There's no way that. I get it, because there's nuance. You got to be competitive.
Right.
But I think going back into this, is like knowing if you're going to be making the money that you initially thought you were going to be making is the bigger conversation. And knowing what that number is before you go into a job is where you really start to like get on that line of thinking, more so of, I am spending my time, investing my efforts and cost into making outcome.
Right.
Should be profit. And that's where I think, like, when we're talking about fixed price builders and tracking cost and how important that is, that's where a lot of fixed price builders get excited about adaptive, because that's what they're looking for. They know going into a job, and they have determined that I'm going to pick up this client, or I'm going to build this product on this piece of land, and I'm going to do so because I'm going to make X dollars or percentage, which is worth my time.
Yeah.
And if I'm not tracking my cost, then it's way easier for me to bleed into my margin or overrun on cost and chew up my margin, chew up what I thought I was going to be making on that project.
Yeah. No,
was that too much?
No, that was great. No, that was well said. I don't know that I have much to respond to on that.
You don't have to. You don't have to. And this is just like kind of a good conversation, because I think like really highlighting here, like what builders are thinking about when it comes to fixed price and cost plus, there needs to be more conversation around it.
Yeah, I love the debate. Like, I do appreciate and just genuinely enjoy debating it. Like, I think it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I started this with, I think every job's different and every client's going to be different. I'm not opposed to it, but it's not like, if I had my choice, like the job that I'm doing cost plus, they asked me and I was like, I prefer to do a fixed price, but I obviously don't want to lose the job. So I'm open to doing it however you'd like. So I will say this.
Go ahead.
With this particular cost plus job that I'm doing, I did ask that we keep the overhead and the project management. I'm sorry. I just did the project management. I wanted a fixed price for the project management because I did not want to get into, and I don't know how other cost plus builders do it. Like, are they building their PM's time for every hour that they're on the site or working on the job? I didn't even want to get into that debate. So I just said, look, we're going to have a fixed price to manage this job for this scope of work. And I'm going to bill it as a percentage of work progress. And that to me was,
I think it's pretty common.
Yeah.
From my understanding, that would be more of a fixed fee situation.
Okay.
And a fixed fee. And that's from my understanding. Again, people that are listening would love to hear some chatter about this. But when it comes to fixed fee, it's a way to like, remain like extremely transparent with the customer, but even more so like become like more competitive when it comes to pricing.
Yeah. My only
prevent and taper this expectation. Go ahead.
I hear the fixed fee argument, but I'm also just like, geez, if they like, I don't know, now want a Chevron pattern or some crazy like high level of management thing, there is a piece of me that's like, there's a little more risk here for everybody.
Yes.
And with that risk ought to come the appropriate level of fee. So that's where I have a hard time just committing to one fee.
Well, Chris, kind of sounds like you're starting to understand cost plus a little bit here. No, I'm just kidding. And I say that because like I will also bring up Brad Robinson.
Yeah.
Awesome dude out of Atlanta. I don't know. He's actually quite available on Instagram. Do you know Brad Robinson?
I will look him up right now.
He's on Instagram. He was on the podcast. He was on the great debate, cost plus versus fixed price. Okay. And I think this nomenclature that luxury custom home builders are typically cost plus, that actually might be generally true. But what Brad is doing is he's building like an elite product in Atlanta.
Okay.
And he is all about fixed price. I like probably you guys share a lot of similarity in how you view like the client experience. Actually, I know that because Brad's all about client experience. Huge pre-con guy, huge selections, design up front, like know what's going on before.
Is he the guy that like won't start a job until all selections are made?
I believe so. I would have to confirm to just be 100% positive.
Good for him.
But if I remember correctly, that's his motion. Yeah. But also like he is a businessman. Like Brad Robinson builds homes, but his product and how he views what he does is a business. It is I have these inputs, and it is my fiduciary obligation to the consumer to make sure that what I am promising them I will give them, I am giving them, and I am making money for the business.
Yeah.
So again, like, I don't think that there's like, oh, if I'm a custom home builder, I have to do cost plus. No. I think that the conversation is more broadly about shifting risk and risk appetites for the individual who is committing to the work, being the business owner.
And are you saying that for both the client and builder?
I think, yeah, for sure. Like, clients definitely have an input in that, because there's certainly like people that have built in the past or get advice on how to go about these conversations. Mm-hmm. You hear it all the time. They'll be like, I only want a fixed price builder. Yeah. And there are guys that are like truly cost plus, and they're like, nope, not going to do it. Not your builder. And that's where they kill the sales cycle.
So answer me this, just because, I live in the world of construction, and, I would never do this, but I mean, there is an opportunity for any builder to take an invoice, it's certainly unethical, and ask a subcontractor to put another $2,000 on that, and then present it to the client. I mean, I feel like there's an elephant in the room here with that. Like, is that not going through the mind of a client? And look, like, huge caveat here. Never, this is me just speaking objectively, like, that thought resonates, I still think, in people's minds. Right. Sure. So to me, that would be a reason for a client not to want to do a job cost plus, just for fear of that. And maybe it gets back to a level of trust and, understanding the market and all that, or getting 3 prices and going with the low one, like, maybe a little more emphasis on that. But like, have you come across that at all, where clients have expressed that concern, or has a builder expressed that concern of a client?
So no, I haven't. And that's like, I think it's valid. I think it's totally insane.
Oh, it's illegal. It's all the wrong things.
And that's where, like, and so I frankly, like, I'm more on like the B2B side, business to business, meaning I sell software to the business, and I am less involved with the consumer being the builder's client, right? So I think that fear, which is why I say it's probably valid, that fear probably exists with the consumer. It's like, if I get into a cost plus contract and there's no definitive number of what this thing is going to cost me, just a ballpark, who's to say that general contractor Bob isn't going to be colluding in the background with Phil the plumber to be tacking on an extra couple grand on these invoices, and I get fleeced, right?
Yeah.
I think, to your point, totally illegal. There's like multiple businesses at stake.
Yeah.
That would just be a totally wild way to build a fraudulent company.
Of course, right.
If you are into fraud, like, there are other businesses to get into that you could probably make more money being fraud in. And I will say,
right, it's sort of.
I want to say my fixed price side, but go ahead. I want just for the record, I do want to say the alternative to a fixed price side, but go ahead.
Okay. I would say, with cost plus, I mean, you still have the inherent responsibility of managing a budget. Like, I do anyway. Like, I wouldn't want cost plus to come off as an open book, because it's not, right? Like, it is still sorry?
It should be, but go ahead.
It should be an open book?
If you're cost plus, yeah, go ahead.
But I use my current example, like, I still feel the responsibility to track the budget. And when I see walnut get selected for ceilings instead of poplar, like, it's my responsibility to say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Client, we give you a budget for X, but, like, your designers just picked walnut. Like, that's going to cost you another 10 grand. Like, that, I feel, is my responsibility to show them that and manage the budget.
It should be.
Yeah.
That's a part of the cost plus model. Yeah. That's why we've, like, emphasized so much on the cost plus side.
How do you deal with change orders in a cost plus model? How do you manage change orders?
again, you got to listen. If you haven't listened to the Will King episode, you should, because we talk about this. And he even struggles with it, of like defining a change order in a cost plus job. It's like,
I love that. What does he
it's
say?
pretty difficult. And we kind of talked through a solution. I think the situation is like, if I'm dealing with a client, and help me with the phrasing, I'm pretty good at it generally, but let's say I've got drywall in and I'm getting ready to do, I'm getting ready to put lighting fixtures in.
It's pronounced drywall.
Drywall.
How are you saying it?
Drywalling.
Drywall.
What are you talking
No, you're doing it right. You're doing great. All right, go on. Sorry.
I was thinking more of like rough-in, but that's not rough-in. That's like for plumbing, like pipes in the walls. I digress. Point being, the example is that if you got a client and they're like, yep, recessed cans all the way. We want recessed cans, recessed can lights, recessed all the way. And then before you install, they're like, actually, wifey was on Pinterest and she saw track lighting and she really likes what that does to the room. Yeah. We want to put track lighting in. Should that be a change order? And like mine was like, I mean, it could if the cost is different. I think that's like reasonable. Like if track lighting is going to be more expensive than recessed cans, you should 100% change order that. But if we're talking about like really the cost of a change order, which is the planning, the scheduling, the admin that goes into generating what that's going to cost, that's really where, like, in my opinion, change orders become a suck. Because it's not as easy as just saying whether it's fixed price or cost plus. Like, yeah, you changed your mind, so I'm going to bill you for it. It's like, no, you need to be thinking about it in terms of, if my PM is walking a job site and the owner says, I want pocket doors here, and we didn't frame for pocket doors, you need to get somebody out there, which is going to take your PM planning and calling to get a bid on what is it going to cost to like convert this into a pocket door? What's the labor and material that's going to go into it? And then is that going to impact future schedule? Like, that's the cost of a change order. Most times.
doubt. And like that cost that cost in a cost plus model, like the overhead, well, I don't know if it does. Yeah, well, I suppose it does. The overhead and the fee get carried there. But in that change order, I would probably put a couple hours of management time on that. Like,
I think you should.
Yeah.
I'm very pro this. And you should mark it up. You should be making money on that, because you, as the owner, are employing and managing and coaching people to perform work in the way that is valuable to White Oak Custom.
No doubt. Yeah, man, I love it. And so, like, here's a scenario in cost plus. What happens in the event where the builder did something wrong? Like, who like, I'll use your pocket door example. Say the design only showed pocket doors and the builder missed it. So now they got to redo framing.
What does that have to do with cost plus or fixed price? I mean, I feel like that's just like, you're going to eat it either way.
You got to eat it, right?
You should eat it.
Yeah, you
on fixed price or cost plus, right? That's like, that's the I might not have gone to college, but I'm paying for my education conversation, right?
Sure.
Right? Maybe. I don't know.
But it does amaze me that subcontractors will, on it, who are getting paid on a time and material basis, will sometimes try to charge you for that. And it's like,
this is subs, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, not often. I mean, our guys are pretty good. But yeah, I mean, if it's not crystal clear, I mean, there is a feeling about some people that maybe they should be getting paid to do it twice. I mean, that's
totally. Well,
that's the dirty laundry of the builder that I'm airing out right now.
Well, and I think that's fair, because I think like that's where like you try to get business as rigid and binary and non-emotional as possible, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how you like start to scale, as you start thinking about business a little bit more rigidly and like, well, if this happens, then this. But when we're talking about a subcontractor that you've worked with for 10 years, missed a detail on plans that we can all agree with wasn't super clear.
Right.
And there's a relationship there. And they're like, dude, I missed that it was a pocket door. I need to come back and do this. And like, I'm going to send you an invoice. I think you have a decision to make as a business owner with all variables considered, to say, okay, I will have this conversation with the client. I will pay you for this. I will get you paid for this. But to prevent this from happening in the future, we need to run tighter pre-con and go over this stuff in the beginning to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And then when it happens again, it's like, are you taking me for a run? Or did we miss something?
Yeah.
That's my opinion. That's my opinion of the matter.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I suppose that's another reason why, as a client, you might be opposed to the cost plus model. I mean, if you're not like truly locking subs in to a
Yeah,
price.
but here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. Is like, and this is the devil's advocate of fixed price. And this is why it's such a conversation, because you're 100% right with the cost plus side. Is like the client sitting at the end of this and they're like, okay, what? I'm going to have a general contractor coming to me and saying, hey, you're paying me for a service to manage subs to get my home built the way that we had decided. And now you're asking me to pay for their mess up, which really was your mess up because you weren't managing the project.
Right.
That's 100% a reason to be maybe skeptical of cost plus. But I think inversely, fixed price has those similar situations in the sense that there's a lot of like, okay, if I'm bidding out a home as a consumer, as a client to a bunch of general contractors saying, I've got $1 million and I'm looking for a fixed price builder who can get me what I want for that number.
Yeah.
And we go through and we interview 3 general contractors and they all say, I can get you the $1 million home that your dreams of, or blah, blah, blah. And there's one builder that has hookups or knows like, hey, I can slip a cheaper material in here and they'll never know or really care. And that's where I'm going to make a 15, 20% margin on this thing. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it's like, maybe not an ethical conversation because it can be argued both ways, but it's like, and I understand both ways. Which the fixed price builder is like, if I can run a project more efficiently and I can get the client the product that they want that's cheaper, faster, better, then I should get rewarded for a higher margin because I'm able to do this, right?
Yeah.
But that also creates a stigma of like, okay, if the client's going to spend $1 million is $1 million, that's fine. But then you start to build this like, how fast can I do it? Where can I cut costs? Can I get cheaper subs? Can I get subs that are faster? Right. And so that's where it's like, it's not a binary cost plus is better than fixed price because you could argue gaps in both. And frankly, I think the gaps that get argued aren't as common of issues as you might think. I think it's a lot of it comes from like fear-based thinking, frankly.
And that's like, I mean, listen to every point I've laid out to you of why I'm opposed to maybe going cost plus. They're all fear-based. They're all so. Yeah,
Dude,
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not totally against it. I'm just more comfortable with the fixed price right now. And look, like you got to make a business decision too. And you said it earlier. Like ultimately, you want your client to have a good experience, right? So if it feels like they're going to get changed ordered 1 million times over because they haven't quite made up their mind or the selections, and it's going to feel like a change order every 2 minutes, then you know what? That lends itself to a cost plus, because then it's not so much a change order as it is like, okay, like we're just like a kind of a running tally here of what you want, and I'll effectively manage a budget for you and tell you where I think the costs are tracking, but we're not going to call them change orders.
Well, and I think that's like probably where you see a lot of like custom guys leaning in that cost plus thinking, because they're like, dude, how am I just saw a stat and I wish I paid attention to it more. It was something insane. It was like, oh no, it was a Build Show Live. And I think it was Jake Bruton there was some stat that essentially boiled down to there's X number of decisions that get made when building a custom home. And then he boiled it down to the number of decisions that need made in a day. And it was something crazy like 20 or 40 decisions a day over the course of that. Right. Yeah. So it's like when you're thinking about that from a fixed price standpoint and trying to get everything locked at the beginning and make all those decisions on the front end to insulate yourself to prevent this change order craziness, that's where guys are like, dude, this is the first time I've ever built this home. This is the first time this home has ever been built. This could be a completely custom set of plans. Like, you don't know what you want. We have a floor plan of what you want, right?
Yeah.
But you want a really custom product and you're going to be making the decisions over an 18-month build. Like, we're going to run cost plus so that we're not insulating. But that's where budgeting, draw packages, WIP reporting, all of that comes in to provide an open book experience. And that's where I see the best builders run these processes. And they essentially insulate themselves from a risk and legal standpoint by sending invoicing their draws every 2 weeks or month at the latest. And that's where I completely agree with your initial concern, which is I stay away from cost plus because of the administrative burden. And that's why I say we failed you as an adaptive, because that's like our bread and butter. And you should be looking at this as an empowering moment to say, I can now open up my market to people that are doing fixed price and cost plus, and I can start making these business decisions internally, not scared that cost plus is going to wreck me from an admin standpoint, but I have a solution that will allow me to do it much better for myself internally, as well as providing clarity to the client. So that's where I think, like, as a cost plus builder, you should be sending every cost over, showing where you're making your money with a log of change orders every 2 weeks to manage healthy cash flow, every month at the very minimum.
Well, look, man, stay on me. I mean, I've got a 6-month venture here, this barn in Hingham. So,
dude, we got to run it. We got to run it through. When's your meeting with Daniel?
Gosh, next Tuesday, I want to say.
Next Tuesday, so a week out. How many draws have you put together on this thing so far?
None. I'm getting ready to do one shortly.
Dude, I will holler at Daniel, and you guys should like look at building your first draw in adaptive.
Yeah, that would be great. Like, that's how we should kick off the meeting. Like, show me how to do a draw.
Yeah, I agree. Because, dude, I'm telling you, like, NA, this was a killer conversation. I love this. This was like just like a true banter with the boys. This was good.
Dude, I don't mind it. The same way I don't mind debating political. Not to get into that, but like, I'm not looking. I'm not right or wrong, man. I just want what's best for the client, and I want what's best for the project. And I think if you can go at it
for
with that
you, your family, the people that are involved in your business's family, your subs, your trades.
Yeah.
I think we need to keep a pulse on that, because that's why we're all here. Small business owners, they fuel communities. I'm a huge advocate. Yep. We just want to make you guys make more money. Make you guys make more money, get clients more clear expectations and understandings of what they're doing. Hold everyone accountable.
Dude.
Accountability,
that's an element
brings success. That's right.
I love that.
That's why I do what I do, Chris. That's why I do what I do.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Life is good aside from that. Huh?
You were down in Texas?
What'd you say?
Were you down in Texas?
Yeah, I was in Texas. December of 2025? Yeah, I was in December of 2024 until April of 2025. And I was actually just down there. Is that what you're talking about? I was just in Texas for Build Show.
Yeah, like you were
what you're talking about?
The Builder Expo, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's Build Show Live. It's put on by Matt Reisinger's Build Show. Yeah. I think there's a little lag. I think we're catching a little lag. But yeah.
I think we are too.
No, I was down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
down there for Texas.
I had it on the calendar, but couldn't make it.
You're all good. It'll be there next year. I know we need to take breaks. So we don't talk over each other now. It'll be there next year. I will say that it was an extremely high value show for the participants, the people that join.
Yeah,
so that'd be
I've heard good things. Next year.
Yeah, you should do it. But okay, dude. Well, I'll let you get back to it. I'll let you know when I'm back down in South Shore. And also, I'm going to be starting doing dude, I was gonna happy hours and stuff here in our office. Go ahead.
Let me know. I'm a happy person. Enjoy that hour. So just let me know.
You're a great addition, Chris Kerr. Happy hour, Chris Kerr.
All right, man. Hey, thanks a lot.
All right.
Great,
you bet.
Great being on, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. We'll see you, dude.